Coming up on OTH, Raymond and I discuss the quarterfinals in the World Championship and predict what's going to go on in the semifinals. We hope you enjoyed this episode of On the Hunt. Welcome, everybody, to episode 33 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris, a.k.a. Dry Bones. Because I actually just have like really dry skin all of the time. And I need to like bathe in lotion pretty much every time I shower.
I was trying to think when you said that, I was like, how do you actually know if your bones are dry? That's weird. They're like inside you, but you just went with the skin thing. I got it. Makes sense.
Yeah. It goes deep, let's say. And joining me on this podcast is our little friend, Raymond, a friend of the show.
A little friend. Just a little one.
Yeah. What's going on, man?
Not too much, dude. Just we've gotten through quarterfinals. I've been not playing as much New World, but started playing Legion TD2 this past weekend and spammed that for a little bit. So that's been fun. Been playing games.
Yeah. How many hours have you put into that so far?
Actually, let me check because it has been a considerable amount. Oh my gosh, it's been 18.8 hours and I think I bought it like Saturday. We just kind of spammed it. Maybe it's Friday night, but it's been pretty fun. Have you seen that game at all? Oh,
Hello?
sorry, my internet like just cut out. That was weird.
Okay, yeah. You went a little robot for a bit. You were telling me you put 18 hours in and then go from there.
Yeah, I think I put in like 18 hours. We bought it like I bought it with a bunch of my buddies on like Friday night, I think, and then Saturday and Sunday just kind of spammed it a good bit. So it's a fun game. I'm digging it. Have you played it at all or seen anybody?
I've not played or seen anybody, but it sounds like you're having a grand old time with the old buddies.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like I guess it was an old Warcraft 3 mod. It's like a tower defense, but like you play it's like multiplayer teams against each other. So you get matched up like against one person on the other team, and you can send units to their board like with the normal tower defense waves. And then you have to build up your board, and there's strategy behind all that stuff. It's pretty cool. I've been
Oh,
digging
that
it.
sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me. Well, what I've been up to is I've been playing some Set 6 on PvE of TFT,
Nice.
and there's gonna be a new mode in there where you get to play like 2v2, V2,
Oh,
V2, and
really?
you're gonna be able to like help out your teammates as well. Like if I win my fight, then like whatever's left over, it goes to my teammates' board to help out there as well. That's gonna come out later in November, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. Playing that with some friends of mine, and it sounds like a blast.
Yeah, that actually does sound pretty legit. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, I think unfortunately they keep like everything pretty low key in TFT. You have to like look for it.
Yeah,
So
you gotta be in the know.
there, yeah, there's that. But pretty much same for me. Playing some Final Fantasy. I think I played a game of Earth yesterday, and didn't go so well.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah, I
But
haven't even
I think I got my fix.
I think I've only played a couple ARAMs over the last week or so in an actual league. Just been
Yeah, I think I've been playing TFT a whole bunch. Just saying my farewells to this set before we move on to the next one.
right.
But this is about League, the podcast about League of
True,
Legends.
true, true. Which we clearly play
S-
a shit ton of. Let's go.
A shit ton of, and we'll talk about the patch notes at a later time. Today we're sticking to the World Championship. This past week, the quarterfinals happened Friday to Monday, and some games went on. You want to start with the Friday match?
Yeah, bring it on. We'll just run them through.
Yeah. So what happened here is I woke up at like 7:30 a.m. our time, and the games were over. It was a 3-0 for T1 versus Holland Life Gaming, and I actually went back and I just watched some quick highlights of this series. Were you able to catch any of the games?
No, I think I had pretty much the same experience as you, where I might have woken up in time to see like that game three was a 2-0 and it was already almost over, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go back to sleep until I need to get up.
Yeah, that's pretty much how this series went. I think the first game was actually kind of watchable, but the second and third ones were not. Actually, I think it's the first and third games were like not even close at all. The second one was kind of watchable, um, but yeah, it was pretty stompy, and some. I think you'd be interesting to hear or interested to hear that T1 pulled out the cool stuff again. Talon Jungle. I think he pulled out. I think his name is Owner, the
Hmm.
jungler.
Right.
He pulled out Poppy Jungle for game two again. So they're pulling out the cool stuff. And I heard a couple of stats from some other podcasts as well. Summoning Insight to be exact. That Gumayusi's been playing the fuck out of Aphelios this Worlds, and apparently he hasn't died very much. I think he's only died like 3 times across all of the games that they've played at Worlds. Um, and that among like the members on T1, like a lot of them, like 4 out of 5 of them are in the like top 10 of like least deaths in the whole tournament for that whole team, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it does seem like I think I think I saw the stats because that was one of the talking points going in. Was a lot of how Faker's stats matched up against Chovy, right? The like mid lane stats gods. Um, and Faker had was actually pretty low in stats for mid laners because he's just been letting Gumayusi and Kana just farm the entire map and get super ahead and win the game. So it was kind of interesting. I'm not that surprised that the rest of T1 is getting making bank on the leaderboards because they're letting Faker's just like letting him do it.
But yeah, that's my takeaway here is that T1 is actually looking pretty strong, and they look to play. It looks like they play whatever they want. And they have this their own read on the meta of like playing any jungler that owner feels like, apparently. And yeah, they played through the bottom, and Faker just kind of supports through the mid lane as well. I think he played like 2 games with Lissandra for games 2 and 3, and it seemed all right.
Yeah, I was thinking that this is like I don't know. This was kind of the series I expected going in. Like Hanwha needed to go crazy, and they had kind of showed that they could in groups and play-ins. That they weren't just the Chovy show and kind of washed. But then they reverted when they went to face their Korean brethren, and it was just the Chovy show, and it didn't work.
Yeah, it kind of did look like that, where it looked like the team just didn't stand a chance. Again, game two, it was an okay game, a little bit of back and forth, but in the end, it looked like they didn't stand a chance by the end of game three.
Yeah,
Anything else you got for T1 versus HLE?
I don't think so, dude. This was I don't Yeah, this was the one I was pretty fucking confident about going into this week, and yeah, that was about it.
Yeah, so there goes that one. Next up was Saturday's game. The two LPL teams left in the tournament battled against each other, EDG versus RNG, and this one did go to 5 games with a couple of interesting things in between. Were you able to catch any of these games?
Yeah, so this series I did catch some of it, like the last game maybe, but I think part of
Yeah.
that was because this was Saturday morning, right? Yeah, that was I think I had been on some Legion TD2 grind on Friday night, and so I was trying to sleep in a little bit to catch up. But yeah, I caught game five, and then a lot of the reactions to the way that the series unfolded, I guess, with the
Yeah, that's one
Annie
way to
mid
put
and
it.
everything. That was yeah.
Yeah, so this one was a bit of back and forth, like you said. RNG, they did their mid later crying. He did play Annie for like games 2, 3, and 4. Um, where the first game that they pulled out in game two, I actually think they lost. But then in games 3 and 4, they won with the Annie, and so it got banned in game five alongside like 4 other mid laners against Cryan. So that was pretty crazy. But last week you were talking about how like you're kind of joking about how LPL teams are no brains, all hands, and it kind of when I was watching the highlights, it kind of looks that way. Where like they just fight so fucking much, dude. It's so
Right.
insane, and a fight can start and like really you don't know it seems as if both teams are thinking, yeah, we could win. We could still win the
Yeah.
fight. Like, oh yeah, just keep going. Like and like for some reason they just both teams think they can win the fight like
There's that
from start to finish.
there's that great MLXG copy pasta, I think it was, when I first remember seeing it, when that was, right, he was on RNG, like that was a long time ago, when but it was like when RNG are like 8k gold up, MLXG thinks that they have like a dominant lead and goes in to initiate the fight because that's how they end the game. Then it's like when RNG are even in gold, MLXG thinks they have a slight lead, so he initiates a fight to start to like increase their lead and secure the advantage. And then it's like when MLXG or when RNG is down by like 1k gold, it's like MLXG thinks that it's pretty even, so he initiates a fight in order to find an advantage. And then it's like when RNG is down by 8k gold, MLXG thinks they're slightly behind, so he initiates a fight to try and make up the advantage. And it's like, yeah, that sounds about right for all of China right now.
Yeah, salute to Chinese Harry Potter himself.
But yeah, I don't know. I didn't go back to watch a lot of the games, but it is pretty funny that um like the Annie pick coming out, and just I guess I'm surprised that it was as close as it was. It seemed like there was more hype around EDG going like into this tournament. But
Yeah,
RNG kind of
and
showed up.
again, this series was kind of weird because like I think some games are really back and forth, and then like some games are just like hard stomps. I think game two was a hard stomp by EDG. Game three was even, and then game four was a hard stomp by RNG, and then fifth game was pretty one sided as well. It kind of seemed like be as aggro as you can, and then if your aggro play works out in the early game, like over the opposing teams, then you get to run with the rest of the game.
Right.
Fortunately, um, I think a couple of takeaways I saw in this series is that there's a lot. It's just like MF versus Aphelios every game pretty much,
Yeah.
and teams will switch with which one they prefer. This series was a little different compared to some other ones that I noticed. Like they really let Yumi go through, and so there was a lot of enchanters versus enchanter in the bottom lane. Um, and yeah, and that's pretty much it. And I guess what I also noticed is that pretty much for all the junglers, it's just anything that can build. What should we call it? Anything that can build. Anyone who can build Gore Drinker is playable. It feels
Right.
like.
Yeah. We needed that this last patch to come before Worlds if we wanted that to not be the case. It seems.
But yeah, that's it for me. I just watched the highlights. I think I also caught the fifth game live, but yeah, I just watched the highlights just now, and it seemed like a pretty fun series to be honest. And I wonder how EDG will do moving forward.
Yeah, I think this one is interesting. I don't know. I'm almost not surprised that this was the only 5 game series of the quarterfinals. You know, based off of that like China v China stuff I was talking about before. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this EDG matches up against the Genji in the quarters or in the semis, because that's their matchup, right?
yeah,
Yeah, so that's definitely two very different styles. We'll talk about Genji some when the time comes, but two very different styles. If they just bring the same heat, I'll be interested to see how it works out.
for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, so I've got no more there, so we can go ahead and move on to Sunday's match of Damwon versus Mad Lions. Again, I woke up, series was over. 3-0 in favor of Damwon. Reading stuff online, you it would have made me think that it was absolutely one sided all three games. And when I watched some of the highlights just now, did not seem like the case. Um, but kind of similar to T1 versus HLE, games one and three were pretty one sided for Damwon in this case,
Yeah,
and game two was actually very interesting. And that's the one that I'll just talk about right now,
go for it.
where actually Mad Lions had like a 5 kill lead in the beginning, and then a pretty strong lead throughout the most of the game, I would say. And actually showing up to most of the dragons, taking most of them. I think they even got Dragon Soul this game. But in the end, they just kind of faltered. Damwon had some good plays, and around the Baron area where you just can't let a Kennen get onto you like that.
Yeah.
Um, but that was pretty much the only sliver of hope in that game too that Mad Lions really had, because game three was not that pretty for Mad Lions, and this pretty much solidified that Damwon is undefeated at this tournament so far. 6-0 in the group stage, 3-0 now in the quarterfinals, so 9-0. Um, and they're looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this series I actually was at the point where I was like, oh, I'll try and wake up and watch some of these Worlds games. You know, I was excited for Mad. I was hyping him up last week. I was like, this is the Hopian,
Yeah.
right? Clearly that didn't happen. But I think I tried to wake up early, and I think I woke up for that game too. Like I was at some point, like, you know, like right around the like 10-minute mark where it's like, oh yeah, Matt has the lead, you know, and I'm going in and out of sleep trying to stay awake in my bed, and then like it just, you know, it didn't matter what I saw, but I came back to them losing the game, and I'm like, ah, shit. And then game three, yeah, it was. I mean, that's a tough one. That this series and the next one both kind of felt like old school, like Korea against the West. You know, like the West might you might have something at the beginning where you get excited. You know, like there's some early kills, and then they just get stuffed. You know, there's nothing you lose, or you can't find the plays in mid game to translate it. You can't get a Baron and actually break into the base or something, and it just you slowly lose the game and you slowly lose the game. And as soon as you haven't won by like that 25-minute mark, you're like, ah, shit, we're gonna lose. It's over. Like they don't even have a lead yet, but I know that we already lose this game.
Yeah, that's how I feel like, or used to feel like, watching West versus East is like, if the game's even, this game's lost. They're gonna, like, something bad is gonna happen,
Right.
where you'll get like 4-0'd or even aced by like 15 minutes or something like that. I just know it. Anything else for DK versus Mad Lions?
Ooh, I did see today there was a pretty good there was a good Reddit post of humanoid getting hit by every skill shot that Showmaker
Oh, I
sent at
saw
him.
that.
Did you
Yeah,
watch that for like 5 minutes?
I think it was like, yeah, 6 out of 7 orbs in like 2 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, that was rough to watch. That was one of those like I don't know. That's just hard. You know, you're watching as you just it doesn't look like anything special, right? It's like through Showmaker's pro view, and you just see him hitting every skill shot, and you're like, oh yeah, that's just what you do, right? Like it's one of those. It's like when a math teacher is showing you like a really complicated math proof, and you sit there and like, yeah, that makes sense, and then he says, okay, do it yourself, and you're like, I don't know where to start at all.
Yeah, it feels like ideal League of Legends, where like if somebody like LS is like, dude, Renekton's useless, and you're like, why? And you're like, well, Renekton can't do anything. And that's what it felt like watching that Syndra hit Oriana with every orb. It's just like,
Right.
well, yeah, what did you think was gonna happen? Of course, Syndra's gonna hit every orb, and like
And then you
it
just
felt,
a hard
it's gonna
win,
make you
yeah.
feel like, yeah, make you feel like you can't do anything. And then I think that actually did, like, it actually did matter, where like Humanoid had to blow his TP pretty early, and then
And then
Showmaker
he
used
blows
his
his
TP
flash,
in a
yeah.
bottom lane fight. Yeah, like, to help his team out. So yeah, that's pretty crazy that he can just establish that lead for them, and it just makes them look super insane, as a whole team.
Yeah, it's like it totally looks like something that you would see like, you know, that's what you expect like diamond players versus silver players in lane, but it's world level mid laner versus world's level mid laner.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing I will say is that Ghost does not seem to care about Aphelios as much. It looks like he'll play Jin against MF. That's kind of like what Damwon like to play, or at least the Korean teams like to play Jin. It seems like.
Yeah, I think this is more for Damwon in particular, I think that's more of like Damwon doesn't believe in their bottom lane. Like that's right. This is the same Damwon that had Showmaker roll swap to ADC halfway through the split or whatever because they were too shit. So I'm I'm not surprised to see Ghost relegated to things like Ziggs or Jin that are just long range follow up champions instead of the hard carry Aphelios.
Yeah, but all in all, I liked what I saw out of Mad Lions in Game Two. I liked how decisive Kaiser was with doing some more stuff on Rakan, and making it seem like they're just super aggressive the whole game. So I wish them best of luck in the future. I wonder what that how that team's gonna look like and next going into next year, and I think they can be proud of themselves. But in the end, I guess only G2 can make like big waves at the World Championship. I don't know.
Hey, Fnatic made finals too. Come on.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, with Caps and the big homies.
True, true.
Broxa, that's his name.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I thought you were just saying everybody else, the big homies. I
Yeah,
got you. Yeah, Broxton.
the big homies. Yeah, yeah. Anything else on your side for Mad Lions versus Damwon?
No, I think that was pretty much it. It was a good old fashioned stomp.
Yeah, good old fashioned stomp. Speaking of which, our last series to talk about is Gen G versus Cloud9. Yet another 3-0 in favor of Generation Gaming from the League of Champions Korea. Although I have heard that this series was not as bad. I actually wasn't able to catch up on how all of the games went, but I did watch the third one. But how about you, man? Have you watched any of these Gen G versus Cloud9 games?
Yeah, this was kind of the same for me, where it was like I woke up in time to watch the third one, and it was not going well. And then,
Yeah,
it's the last series. I was like, man, I don't need to see this. I didn't go back and watch any other ones, but it looked like I don't know. It looked like yeah, like you said, not that bad. I mean, it was still a fucking 3-0, but it wasn't
yeah, it's
like
still a 3-0.
yeah, it wasn't like hard destruction. Like there was nothing that C9 could do. It was more of that like the old Korean, like if you're not winning, you're losing. And C9 was picking some pretty rough comps to try and play. Like I think game one like they picked Yasuo for perks and like that's hype, but also they were into like Lulu, Aphelios, Xin Zhao, and Cannon. Like you try and ulti in as Yasuo and you just are gonna die no matter what items you have. If you have QSS, if you have cleanse, right? Like it's not gonna work. So I don't know. It felt like they drafted themselves into some hard spots, and then at the same time it was just they were losing some bad games. I don't know. Tough to fight.
Yeah, I also only caught the third game, and it seemed okay at first, and it seemed like Cloud9 were trying to make some good moves around the map, but then it looked like they just got outclassed in the end, and it kind of did feel like like you were saying earlier, old Korea versus the West, where these Eastern teams just look very like disciplined. They actually do work. They do seem to work as a full 5-man team that's like coordinated as opposed to like sometimes LCS teams. What's going on here? Um, Jokes aside, yeah, pretty rough 3-0. I think I don't think that even like in a best of five, well, of course it's a best of five. I don't even think in 10 games. After having seen what I saw in the third game, I don't even know if Cloud9 could like win 3 games in a best of 10 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
I
not
think you're
sure.
probably right. It seems like on the day probably not. I think that
Yeah, not on
C9
that
could
day.
have played better, right? And they like yeah, like those they had some early games where it showed they had an idea of what to do. Um, but yeah, BDD. I think the big shout out for this series was BDD playing like really well. After that dominant Zoe performance to knock the shit out of TL out of groups. He did kind of the same thing in Game 3 against Cloud9 to knock them out too. So he's been stepping up pretty high for Gen G. And then like just as a whole, I think it's still it's still Gen G playing like as long as we don't lose, we're gonna win, right? Like we get to late game and we win some team fights, and that's GG. Um,
Yeah,
which, like I was saying earlier, I don't know if you can pull that off against EDG. Like maybe you can pull that off against C9 because it's NA Omega Law, and Blabber's gonna do some big int thing, but I think EDG makes less of those inty mistakes. So we'll see what happens, but it'll be. I'd be surprised if Genji can keep up their winning ways against the better teams.
yeah. I'm looking forward to the match, and we can get right into those. Any final words for Genji versus Cloud9?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably just rest in peace, Cloud9, dude. I think this is it was rough. I don't know. I think Perks gave some tweet that was like, yeah, that was a bad 3-0, but like we were also supposed to get 3-0'd by TSM to make it into World, so at least we got this far, which is true, which is pretty true, but it still feels bad.
Yeah, it feels bad. I think that in the end, yeah, these East I feel like these Eastern teams are just so much more disciplined, or they've been through the shit. And what I really mean by that is like, I guess playing in the NA, you don't get punished for mistakes as hard, or certain kinds of mistakes as badly, and so your perception of what you can get away with in terms of positioning, um or just being ready for certain things to happen to you, you might not be as like prepared for it.
Yeah,
And so that's kind of what I mean by that is, I feel like, unfortunately, NA teams practice against NA teams for a majority of the year, and then they just have to buckle up within a couple of weeks to play at the World Championship. And I guess old habits die hard, and that's how Sven can get picked off over and over in Game Three and stuff like that. So
right.
that's
Yeah,
just some quick thoughts. I don't know how true, how um I don't know what the word is, like how truthful I'm being, or how much truth there is to my words, validity, something like that.
yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I think what was I gonna say? I think it's hard for yeah. Now I've lost it as well. Fuck.
Yeah, well, I'll save you. We can just move on. Fuck it.
That's true.
Um, yeah,
Oh,
so we've got four
wait,
teams
hold on.
left. Oh, go ahead.
Before we go on that one, I was going to say also the comment that BDD made about Western mid laners. He's saying is something along the lines of Western mid laners just don't know how to lane, or are bad at laning just in general across the board. I thought that was a pretty interesting line and kind of a tell on um, or it hits on the same point as like what you said about the uh, just not being tested in NA. I think is if if BDD played against like Jensen and Perks and presumably scrimmed against everybody else, right? Like he played against some of the better mid laners, at least that NA has to offer.
Yeah,
Uh, and last Worlds was when he shit on Bjergsen in groups too. So like if that's what he's got to say about Western mid laners, it feels pretty bad. And I don't know. Now's not the time to try and defend the Western mids in terms of being up the lane, but it's a good example of like what you're saying about just not being able to get good practice or match up against things that you didn't expect, that kind of thing.
yeah, and you know what? We'll give him that one for now.
For now, for now,
Yeah, yeah.
until
Genji's been to Worlds for a couple of times for themselves, and BDD, he's probably like a top five mid laner over in LCK as well. So we'll give him this one.
until Bjergsen comes back from his hyperbolic coaching time chamber, guaranteed
Yeah,
dubs.
I think that's an interesting thought experiment as to whether that matters or not. Like just taking time off to like see the game from another perspective. I don't know. We'll talk about this in the future.
True, true, true. Once it's confirmed,
Yeah. Although, yeah, maybe we can talk some a little bit of off-season stuff afterwards.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, so we've got four teams left in the World Championship. Damwon Kia are facing T1 this Saturday, October 30th at 5 a.m. That's going to be our first semifinal match. Pretty hype. Again, between these two teams, Damwon Kia has lost 0 games. T1 lost 1 game against EDG in the group stage, but then that's it. So between these two teams, they've lost 1 game out of 18 so far, which is pretty crazy. And unfortunately, one team isn't going to make it past this point out of these two. So, but both teams have insane stats for themselves, and I'm pretty excited for this matchup because I feel like this is probably, it could be that the winner of this series is going to go on to win the whole thing.
Yep, yep. I would probably definitely agree. I would probably definitely agree with you on that point. This feels like the true finals for sure, in my humble
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah. T1 always finds themselves in these kind of situations where they play against the true finals in the semis or something like that.
Yeah, hopefully this can be as hype as the Rocks series. I don't want it to be a another sad 3-0.
Yeah. But anyways, these two teams played in the summer playoffs for the first place match, and Damwon, I believe they won 3-1 in the summer playoffs, and so this is going to be a rematch of that here at the World Championship, different patch, and about 2 months later, but Team One's been looking good, and I guess the meta has had a bit of a shakeup where it seems like Gwen is back in the top lane. You can play whatever you want mid lane. You can play whatever you want jungle. AD carries seem pretty locked, but even that, and then even the supports are kind of changing up as well. Barrel pulled out Pike in the quarterfinals, and then we've seen Yumi, Nautilus, even Lulu, Rakan. So there's a lot of different variables that can fly around in this series that I'm really looking forward to, and we'll see if owner pulls out any more talent, or even draws bans for that kind of stuff.
True. Yeah. I think that's a good point about their last matchup in finals. But like you said, 2 months later, I think T1 has looked probably a lot stronger than, at least from what I've heard, they looked in LCK and leading up to Worlds. So I think that I'd be more hype on the T1 train now. Um, I don't know, just going off of how we've seen them play or who we've seen them play really, it's almost hard to give Damwon the edge. Like, yes, they've looked dominant. Yes, they were the undefeated team, but I would think that Damwon has played the weaker teams than T1 has. So if that means anything, I think that's going to be a an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, true. I guess they both played NA teams, so that's pretty even.
Yeah, and but Damwon
No.
played the hard faltering FPX.
Yeah, but then T1 did have LJL, so maybe it does even out somewhere in there.
That's true. We'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this match. Hopefully, I wake up and it's not over.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's all I'm hoping for, honestly, is that I can
yeah,
wake up
that's
at
I'm
like a
hoping
cool
for
8
four more.
o'clock, catch game 4 and 5.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for in this series as well. And yeah, I think I saw a post on Reddit today saying that um, at max, Khan is gonna have 5 or 10 more games in his career here, because it's gonna be either this series, and then if he wins this series, they'll possibly another 5 in the next one. So minimum 3, maximum 10 is the amount of games that Khan has left in the tank before he has to do mandatory military service.
Yeah. Yeah, it does feel kind of bad. I don't know. I'm at this point I don't know if I'm as sad as I was when they first started doing the this is Khan's last Worlds, this is Khan's last playoffs, like it feels like it's dragged on a bit, but it's still sad to think about as we get closer and closer to the end.
Yeah, to the end. Any final words for Damwon versus T1 this Saturday?
Nah, dude, I'm just on the Faker, the Gumayushi train. I'm ready for that stuff. Let's go T1.
Yeah, yeah, he's insane. And actually it's pretty insane that there's so many 17-year-olds on the T1 team right now. I think Gumayushi and the jungler are both just super young. Where the first time Faker won the world championship, these guys were 12.
11, yeah.
Yeah, or younger. Yeah, so it's pretty cool and crazy to think about. But I'm sure there's a lot of people in LCK now who are
Are the
they
same,
were
yeah.
10 years old when Faker won. So yeah, that's just pretty cool. And I guess maybe soon an NA will be like that, or when Bjergsen won LCS the first time, Danny was 10.
I think we're
Stuff like that.
almost. I think we're kind of already there.
Yeah, yeah. Danny's a
If
good
you think,
example
yeah,
of
I
that.
think Daddy is. Yeah,
And too bad he never faced against the great double lift. He never had the chance.
true. Feels bad, man.
And then the other quarterfinal match that you alluded to earlier is going to be Genji versus EDG. Um, and oh yeah, another thing that I saw I on Twitter the other day is that in these four teams there's 17 Koreans,
Yeah.
because even EDG has two in Scout and somebody
Viper.
else, Scout and Viper, right?
Yeah.
And so speaking of Viper, also plays a fuck ton of Aphelios here at the World Championship.
True.
Um, Known for his Aphelios out in the LPL summer playoffs as well, in the finals actually. And so, yeah, expect to see more Aphelios throughout both of these matches from Gumushi and Viper.
And Ruler too, if they can play it. I bet that'll be highly contested in that series.
Oh, true. Yeah, so I'm sure MF and Aphelios are just going to be, exchanged between these two teams throughout this series, and we'll see if any of those, fun picks that EDG likes to have, like the different support picks they were doing in their RNG series, and how they're going to manage their top laner versus Genji as well. I think this could all be very interesting, and I wonder how it's all going to turn out.
Yeah, dude. Speaking just on that MF Aphelios trade real quick. I would like to see. I want one of these teams to pick Draven. I think I would bet that Gumayushi or Viper could pull it out, but I would want. I think somebody needs to. I'm surprised it hasn't seen at least some play this Worlds.
Who's is it particularly good against MF or Aphelios?
I think it's good. I think it's one of those that you can contest into both of them with. Like I think a lot of teams pick like MF for just like that raw team fight, right? And Aphelios is like a lane bully if you get a good support with him, plus a hyper carry, like if you're going with like a Lulu or something. But I think Draven you can pick like hard engage lanes and like play to shut them down, and he's still strong enough that I think he can snowball really fast. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It feels like that's kind of what people say about Draven. Like a lot of the time. I remember when Doublelift like took a break for that split, and then he came back and was mercenarying on TL before he actually made the switch. And it was like I think he played Draven coming out
Oh, and
of
he
that
died to the red
break.
buff.
Yeah, um, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
remember
true.
that game.
But like that was like one of those where he was playing Draven a fuck ton in solo queue, and I think that's what people do, and it's like, yeah, this is a good matchup for Draven. You just do it into this situation or whatever, and then people get excited to play it in Worlds. And like Arrow is like a big Draven player, and he always talks about it like, oh yeah, you could play this. I think this will be contested, and then just like nobody does it. Nobody has the balls.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of high mobility lately. Even like getting away from a cannon can be pretty bad sometimes. Yeah, Kennan's been shitting on all these MFs in the World Championships, so it can be rough for an immobile AD carry nowadays. Even just like playing against Rakan is pretty terrible. But maybe that just shows how broken Rakan is.
Yeah, that's probably a fair point.
But yeah, I'm not an analyst, so I don't have much else to say against Genji versus EDG. But I am looking forward to both of these semifinals, and we'll see. I think a lot of stories were saying that EDG has actually never made it this far in the World Championship. Um, they usually lose out in the quarterfinals, and Genji, they won back when they were Samsung back in 2017, but um, they haven't made it back to the finals in a long time as well. Obviously, T1 hasn't been back to the finals in a long time, where Damwon is the returning champion. So, a couple of interesting storylines for all four of these teams. That um, it feels like Damwon and T1 are um, the gods fighting out for the crown, where Genji and EDG are more the underdogs, and one of the two underdogs are gonna make it to the finals, and we'll see how they can match up against the um,
The
monoliths
gods,
up
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully, I don't know. I think somebody said, or I think I saw something like, after what was the one of the more hype or hypest group stages that we've seen in a while at Worlds, then the quarterfinals this week was just kind of boring. Um, so hopefully these series give us some good content, and we get a good finals matchup too. I don't want to. I don't know. I don't want this to be just damn one win 6 more games. like 6-0. That's it. And then defending champs, repeat champs.
Yeah. I guess now that we've covered the four teams in the semifinals, I kind of want to circle back and ask you again. So like, how do you feel about this World Championship schedule? Now that we've put some thought into it at the start, and now we're in the middle of it, because I'm starting to think that like I understand why the games are on the weekends, to maximize the viewership, I would presume. But it kind of sucks that not only do I have to wait 4 to 5 days for the next match to take place, but the
Yeah.
teams have to wait 4 to 5 days to take place, and sure that gives them more time to practice, and maybe that'll lead to like higher quality games. But I kind of wish I could just see these games played like not the same day, but at least maybe like 1 or 2 days after like the last match ended is kind of what I'm thinking, because I'm also thinking that like the international with Dota, that one was over super quick, and granted they play multiple games at once, but at the same time, I mean, with multiple
Right.
streams going on, but like they wrap it up super quick, where like whereas Riot is has this venue in Iceland for like 6 weeks, like really that could just be a condensed schedule, and when you could just like cut out these break days, so to speak, between in this portion of the bracket stage of like why is it so long between um group to quarters, quarters to semis, semis to finals, like really there's like between 10 and 15 days that are just like there's no gameplay and these like last 3 weeks of the world championship, like this is the first portion I would of like the group stage portion. I felt like that went by too fast, but I'm starting to think that this last portion goes by too slow. Do you have any thoughts on that? Now that like I'm kind of making a big deal out of nothing.
No, I kind of give it to you. I do think that these last few stages, it does just feel like it takes a really long time to get through, a 3 round playoff bracket. Um,
With no loser bracket, yeah.
right. And it's like it doesn't. I don't think it's actually that long, right? You think about it, it's like it's 2 weeks and change from the first game of quarters to the finals, but it does feel too long, I think, at this point. I don't know. I think the more I think about it, and the more people have complained about like regional formats and stuff, I don't personally think that you need to have so much time in between games. I haven't been on a team, clearly, like I'm not part of a competitive team. I don't discount the amount of prep work that they do, but like thinking about how you compare league to like other sports leagues and stuff like that, I don't know that there's a reason to like not have more games just like with a few days in between. Like I don't think you need 6 days, 7 days to prep and scrim for each game, right? Like you could get away with a couple days and you'd be fine with it, and it's not like a super hindrance, so I'm definitely more on board, I think, with like with trying something at least like the TI schedule, or um yeah, I don't know, just shortening these. I don't know. It does feel kind of bad, especially because it's a single elimination. Like you wouldn't want to be the having the semifinals on a Wednesday and then the finals on Saturday, just because like if nobody watches semifinals on Wednesday because it's a weird time slot, then you're ruining it a bit. I get that stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Still feels weird. I'd be on board for a more fast paced knockout stage for sure.
Yeah, and like this might sound weird, but like the longer the Asian teams are here, the more low key tortured they are, because I guarantee you there's zero Korean food in out in Iceland. So like I'm serious, they have to eat the food wherever the world championship is, and
That's true.
they've been here for over a month now, and that they just have to like get through that to get to the end of the world championship, and finally be over with that. Like it's more, there's more tests than just the game is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd bet it's maybe a little less impactful for um for gamers, I guess would be my thoughts. These guys probably
Oh,
don't.
okay. Yeah, just
You're not.
eating
Yeah, you're eating whatever
instant
you want.
noodles all day.
Yeah, exactly. It's the NA teams and shit that go somewhere and it's like first thing we got off the plane was McDonald's, right? Like poggers, way to go, guys. Good shit. I'm sure there's some element of that for most guys, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, that does suck. I think that's a good point too. I mean, it's only for a few teams, right? Like it's only T1 and Damwon, or it's only these four that even have to stay this week, and only two have to stay another week, right? But it's a month-long tournament, right? And especially if as they've expanded play-ins and stuff for teams that had to go to that, like if Hanwha had made it to this stage, that's a whole another week. They've been here for a month already, just chilling in Iceland. Plus the time they had to do to quarantine ahead of time. Yeah, it's rough.
For sure, dude. Um, yeah, that's it for me tonight.
Yeah, I think I'm good too.
Yeah, any other miscellaneous topics you want to talk about? You want to talk about any Mad Lions drama or any other off-season rumors, that kind of thing?
Nah, I think we hit all the good stuff. I don't know. The Mad Lions drama felt like I it was stupid. It was stupid what that guy did, but I don't need to say anything more than that. It was just pretty stupid.
Yeah, yeah, I'm kind of meh about it as well.
And then everything else is just off-season rumors. That's really what it is, dude. Worlds takes too long, and then the off-season can't start until Worlds is over. And then when I get knocked out because NA is, over after first stage of groups or after quarterfinals, then it's just like, well, shit. I'm only here to see what mess of a roster TSM puts together. I don't care
Yeah,
about the
pretty
rest.
much. Pretty much, dude. And, speaking of TSM roster, I kind of realized that like I I do and I don't miss like the double lift co stream, watching the world championship. Like from the end of the LCS finals to the start of Worlds, I kind of forgot about it. And then today I just realized, oh holy shit, I haven't watched double lift in like 3 months. Um, I don't know, just a fun thought.
Yeah, that's kind of fair. I feel like I'd worry more about it if I was awake to watch the games anyway. That's the thing that makes it harder
True,
for me.
true.
When Worlds is on a schedule like this, it's like I don't mind missing out on the live content, but at the same time I want to know who won like when I wake up, and so I'll look at that and then I don't mind to like sit and rewatch like a full rerun of the game. Like I'll watch highlights or whatever. But
Yeah.
like I
Even the
think Cap
highlights, it was a struggle for me to get through though. It's just like,
yeah,
eh.
yeah, especially if it's like boring series or whatever. But like I think Captain Flowers has been doing like restreams where he commentates over the games or something, and like that'd be fun I think to watch. But at the same time, I don't feel like I want to watch all 3 or 5 hours of the games like in the middle of the day again when I already know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Especially like I remember watching the T1 versus HLE highlight, and it'll be like the first highlight of the match starts at 9 minutes, and then the next one happens at 18 minutes. And it's like, oh, thank God I didn't watch that fucking match because the that it would just be like watching them clear waves for until dragon spawns over and over.
Right.
Which I'm sure most games, that's the tempo of the game. Is just the dragon is the focal point. But yeah, that just kind of reminds me of like how painful it can be to watch some League of Legends matches sometimes.
Hmm.
Oh shit! I keep bumping my head into my microphone for some reason.
Hanging too close to you.
Yeah. All right. That's gonna be it for this episode of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to us on the podcast player that you are listening to us on, if you haven't already. We'd appreciate it if you showed us some support as well by liking it on whatever player that you're using as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and so forth. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm nailing this. So, that's all. See you guys later. Cue the
See ya.
music. Peace out.
Cue it. Play us out.